What's up, Internet? You're tuned to episode 1 of FlipScreen Games' Persona 5 Royal Book Club, your monthly video game podcast where we discuss the greatest JRPG of our time, Persona 5 Royal. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined as always for the very first time, my very good friends and co-hosts, Mr. Stephen Radford.
Hello, hello.
Mr. Chuy Plays.
I am thou.
Miss Sierra Plus Ultra.
The Fitness Gram Pacer test is a multi-stage aerobic capacity test that progressively gets more difficult as it continues.
And joining us for the first time, a very special guest, Patreon producer and Persona 5's biggest hype man, Mr. Zaid Ida.
Thou art I.
There we go.
Yeah.
We got there. See, I think, Sierra, what I'm hearing now is we need to add this as a new option on your Twitch stream where we replace the B-movie script with just descriptions from Persona 5.
Yeah, sounds good.
This game is a work of fiction.
You know, did you guys ever see the thing? I was on the subreddit for Persona while we were recording this, and I saw somebody share a thing where this man made a post on our Persona 5 complaining about that. And he's like, oh, if you don't accept the terms and conditions, the game won't let you play. I can't believe this. No video game has ever done this. They just tricked him because they did voiceover. I was like, this is just that have you ever played a game on Steam? You've done this every time before. They were just cute about it. Mm-hmm. And he was deeply confused by this.
Wow.
But that's not what we're here to talk about. You know, if we want to talk more about this man's foolishness, we can. But for our first episode here on the Persona 5 Game Club, we are going to be talking about our so how we're doing this. If you haven't listened to any of our shows, if you've just come across this episode, the way that we're doing this for our game club is once a month we'll be checking in on our progress with the game. We are setting a definitive endpoint for each of us to get to by the time we get together. So for episode 1, we have all just gotten up to the end of the first palace. We've changed Kamoshida's heart. So we're in it now, right? We've gotten through the preamble, and now in this next batch is where we're going to really get into the good, meaty stuff. But I'm very, very interested to talk about this because I think we have a very interesting panel here today, right? Because everybody has a pretty different level of experience with the game. So Zaid and I have both played the game to completion in the past. Steve played the original Persona 5 and in true Steve fashion invested about 70 hours into it and never finished it. And then Chuy and Sierra at fresh-faced, brand new Phantom Thieves, first Persona game. So we've got a really good a good smattering of opinions here. So I want to start. We'll start with Chuy or Sierra. One of you here. First, want to put your hand up real quick. Who did it? Who's gonna do it? No, okay, wow. I said real quick, and you both were just like...
Courteous to let Chuy go first.
They're like, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. All right, so Chuy, you can go first. I wanna start with you as a new player. How are you feeling about the game so far? And answer that however you want to.
I am feeling glad that we're recording now because then it means I can start playing it again and go to the next section. I really like it. I think it's got a lot of cool things going on. And as far as like my background with Persona, as I was playing it, I was like, oh, I think I have a bigger background to this than I thought just because I have played like a Shin Megami Tensei game. Yes. And there's like a lot of kind of like overlap with some of the mechanics and the things you do. But I don't know, as I played this, I was like, oh, there's a lot of really cool, interesting thematic things that I feel work with the gameplay a lot better too. But yeah, overall, really liking it. Excited to keep going after this, but also excited to talk about all this stuff.
I'm really glad we're finally getting a chat about it because this is one of those games. I figured that we would all enjoy it, right? Or I wouldn't have asked everyone to be a part of it. But you were one where I particularly thought this would scratch an itch for you because I know
for sure
how much you love, the slice of life stuff, especially when it's, you were a big Fire Emblem guy, and I'm like, it's like a perfect 1-to-1, right? So I'm glad you're getting into it so far. I'm excited to hear more of your thoughts. So Sierra, how about you? Right, this is your first time with Persona. I don't believe you've played any other related stuff, right? So how are you getting on with it so far?
I bought Golden on a Steam sale 2 years ago, and it still sits unplayed on my computer. It's just like Persona 5 was always one of those games that like I admired from a distance. Oh, like this looks really fun, but no. And so
It's a big
to have
commitment.
this yeah, to have this reason now to dive into it is great. I knew I'd like it. That's the thing, right? You see something like, I know I'd like this, but it's just making the first leap, right? So,
Mhm.
this I love the story. It's very interesting. The characters and like the way they fleshed them out is great and fantastic. And I like the even mix of combat and life sim stuff. I like that
Yes.
the game also like you do your superhero shit, but you also have like normal shit to do. And that's really like relatable for me. It grounds the story in like some sort of like even level with like, we all have lives and stuff and then we play video games to escape from them. So, yeah, so I'm enjoying it a lot so far. Yeah, and I'm excited to do more. There's just so much. There's so much to do.
Yeah, it's a game that's like very, very it's steeped in systems. There's so many systems to engage with.
Yes.
But I really like the point you made about like the way that it balances kind of like the lofty, like, yeah, it's a JRPG and you're going to become a superhero and like probably fight God or whatever, right? Because that's what you do in JRPGs. But then also you can like do your laundry, and it's like,
Yeah.
or like
yeah.
go meet up with your boy at the arcade,
Just go to work.
Yeah,
like,
get a
oh, I'm just gonna go
burger.
work in like a 7-Eleven. It's bizarre.
Yeah, it's a special game for sure.
Mhm.
All right, so Steve, we'll use you as a transition point as the player who's played the game but hasn't finished the game. How are you feeling being back in Shibuya, spending your time with the Phantom Thieves after so far removed from your first brush with it a couple years ago?
I'm enjoying it. I found this first palace a bit frustrating. I'm very glad the fast forward functionality is there, just because I remember how to play this game. I don't need you to teach me every single beat and how to play in battles, but I'm aware that probably Sierra and Chuy did need that, so I'm glad that the fast forward feature exists there, because quite frequently I would fast forward through it. I again had some issues I had when in my first playthrough. There's some very questionable dialogue and choices at times, and also the fact that a lot of the dialogue choices don't really matter. Like, you have three
Yeah.
options on the screen, but the next bit of text is going to relate to any of those. You could have picked any of them.
Yeah,
and
it's a lot
completely
like
meaningless.
I compare it a lot to like the Telltale games where it's like it's more about like it's like a coloring book, right? Like not a drawing, right? Where it's like you're shading in how you react to things and like how you talk to people, but like it's more for your role playing experience than it is for like materially impacting, except for like the confidant stuff. That matters a lot, right? But like in a lot of the major story beats,
And like when I'm just doing the linear dialogue story, I know that there's some occasions where I think like Arn would have said something differently.
Yes.
From what I said to her, but for the most part, what comes next from the NPC is always going to be the same, and no matter what choice I make, but that's fine. I am appreciating a lot more of the quality of life improvements, and I've noticed some of the new content going through that initial opening section, the bit with the grapple hook. And you get like pulled up and you meet the new character for the first time.
Yes.
That obviously didn't happen in Persona 5 because she's new to Royal, which was nice to see. So I was like, oh, there is going to be some fresh stuff here. There is going to be some new elements that I've not seen before, which was nice. And saving is so much nicer. You can save anywhere. You don't have to go back to your home or to a save room, which was a big issue. Like, when you were in, say, just Shibuya, you can just save it. You don't have to go back home and finish the day, which is a big improvement. Same as in the castle. Like, if I get to the castle and I'm at the beginning of the castle, I can just save it, which is nice, because previously in Persona 5, you had to find a save room when you're in the castle or go back to your bedroom, which was a pain in the ass.
I had multiple.
Sounds like
That was like the big thing that got me to stop playing Persona 5 before Royal came out, because it was like I would be like, I want to like watch TV or use my PlayStation for something else, and I got to play for like 45 minutes until I hit a save point,
Yeah, I mean, I am playing on Xbox, which gives me the advantage of quick resume. So I've been able to like close the game, go use it to watch, say, like some TV or play a different game. I'm in the middle of playing Pentiment as well, and I can just switch back and forth between them, and it'll pick up exactly where I've left off. So the savings kind of irrelevant because Quick Resume's so reliable, and I know my game's always going to be there. So it's quite nice to just suspend this huge mammoth game. Because you kept saying, Pete, to all of us, like, or even in the promos, right? But it's only the first few hours of the game.
Yeah, I was wrong.
I don't know about everyone else.
Yeah.
I got to 12 hours.
I also
was
hit
finished.
12 hours.
I got to I think 11. Yeah.
I want to say, I don't remember exactly, like 11 or 13 to get to there, somewhere in that range.
I meant 9 hours and 18 minutes. I got a little more time in this morning, and I got to the Kamoshida Change of Heart story beat, but I stopped after that. So I'm at like
You still
Okay,
got
so
6 days left, right?
Yeah.
To get to where we're talking about.
Which is probably roughly about 2 hours of
Yeah.
of game time. Yeah. You didn't miss too much. Okay. That's actually something I didn't think to ask Chuy and Sierra. Which platforms are you playing it on?
PC. I kind of wish I got it on the Switch though. My reason for not getting it on the Switch was money. But time is money, right? So I think like it would have been nice. I'm playing the game. I'm like, oh, I would love to be on my couch right now, like playing like the Life Sim.
So you plan on Game
Mood.
Pass?
It's such a mood. Yeah, I have Game Pass.
You should download the Xbox app on your phone. You can play it remotely on
my
your
phone?
phone. Yeah.
With cloud gaming.
Yeah, it'll just stream it to your phone, and then you can just play it wherever you are.
Yeah.
The future.
Oh.
Can't
Or
believe it.
or we all chip in, we get Sierra a Steam Deck. That's the other move.
Does
That's
Sierra also? Oh, I was gonna say but does Sierra want to start the game again? Because like the Steam, because
Oh,
if she's
right,
playing
it's
on
on
Game Pass,
Xbox.
it's not gonna work on
Never
Steam.
mind.
So she's gonna have
Never
to, like,
mind.
play another 11 hours. Again.
Not worth it. Not worth it.
Wait.
Coming
Yeah.
from someone who
on
had to
Steam
do,
Deck. Even if I
Yeah.
logged it. Oh, right, because I'm on Game Pass. That doesn't
Right.
matter.
Yeah.
coming from someone who had to replay the first 11 hours twice, you don't want to do that. I mean,
No,
I
God,
I
no.
that.
Oh,
when you see
fuck
everything
no.
twice in like the same week span, it's just like, all right.
That's a
Did you
lot.
say
Either
that?
Sit on a hot grill.
But I'm pretty sure you've played this game like 6 times, right? Like
I mean, I jump back in. Like on my PS4 version, I have on one of my many versions of the game, I have like a save point to the start of every section, every major palace.
yeah,
of the
I believe
game.
that. I
Oh,
believe
that's
that.
cool.
Yeah, it's because this
'Cause-
guy, like I said, #1 Persona 5 hype man. He owns he owns the game on every platform it's ever been. He doesn't even own it. He doesn't even own an Xbox. He's thinking about buying it on Xbox. You know,
Yeah,
it's crazy,
yeah,
man.
Still
just to
have it.
support.
Nice.
I mean, I guess I'll jump in here. I mean, I've
Yeah.
played the game twice. It's like one of the very few
That's
games.
Royal twice, right? Have you played Persona 5?
No, it
original
was
as well?
Persona, like to completion, start to end, Persona 5, and then Persona 5 Royal once, and this will be my second full time doing it. But I mean, like I said, I jump in, and if I just want to get a
Yeah.
little bit of it, I'll jump in into a certain point. I'm like, oh, I want to challenge myself here, and I have like a set of personas and stuff for that section. There are very few games that I can say with confidence own real estate on the artistic side of my brain, and there's like a nice old mansion in there for Persona 5. They say your first Persona game is your favorite one, and to everyone else I've talked to, that seems to be the case. And I've played all the other big ones, you know, the ones that have the slice of life stuff, and it's just something special. I mean, there's a reason this game's been released 3 times. You know what I mean? Like, full price, by the way. It's a game that like has kind of pushed the genre back into the spotlight. And I think Pete said it best. What did he say? The greatest JRPG of our time. I agree with that wholeheartedly. It's like, so for me, it's just nice to be home. It's like this game has opened me up to so many different things. Like I want to go to Japan because of seeing the Shibuya crossing.
Yeah.
And I want to go and like even the food like that they're eating, like the ramen. It looks
Yeah.
good in the game. I want to go because of that. And it's like,
Dude,
it's not only a good showcase of how to like make a really good video game. It's just a showcase of how to like
Yeah.
show you the world, show you,
Kind of like
Yeah.
capture a culture and
Yeah,
area
yeah.
of the world, you know?
but in a
One of my-
comfortable setting.
One of my favorite lines, because like they live in Japan, they live in Shibuya. I love the fact that Ryuji has to explain to the protagonist what the Shibuya crossing is at one point in the game.
Well,
He's like,
you're-
yeah, it's a really big crossing with loads
Yeah.
of people, and I'm like, I
Yeah.
live here, I know exactly
but he
what
does.
it is.
But Joker's from the burbs.
True, but everyone in the world knows what the Shibuya Crossing is.
Yeah, but only because of Persona.
Seen footage of it.
You'd be surprised. Come down to southern New Jersey and try to explain what that is.
They don't know. Yeah, man. I definitely echo your sentiments there, Zaid. Where like I've only played the game once. I played Royal through in 2020 or whatever it was, and yeah, it's one of my favorite games of all time. I definitely think it's the best in the genre. And I think for me, like it, and we'll talk about this a lot later, but it all comes down to that loop, right? It all comes down to, I think that point that Sierra touched on earlier, where like it takes so many things that are features or systems or things that are a deciding factor for why I like a game in another genre, and it puts them all in one game and actually does it well, right? Because there are so many games where it's like, oh yeah, it's like system on top of system on top of system, and there are a bunch that you don't even ever want to touch because they're not well fleshed out, or they don't feel as good as a game that focuses, right, on combat or focuses on life sim or whatever, right? And for me, what's so good about Persona is the way that it has these multiple facets, but each one feeds into each other so well, right? Like the time that you're spending when you're not in dungeons, in palaces, like going out and doing the the superhero JRPG stuff, right? Like all of the slice of life, type things that you're doing are impacting how your character is built, right? And you're unlocking new abilities by deepening your friendships. You're, increasing your stats by going and studying or cleaning the cafe or whatever, right? And all of those things are just feeding into you becoming, better at the game and learning more about its systems and learning more about how you're supposed to use your time, and things like that. And I love that the game gives you enough time, right? Because I think, as Sierra hinted at earlier, right? Like the length of the game is intimidating. And I get why people are like, oh, like 150 hours, like that seems like such an investment. But I think it's because it doesn't want to hold your hand too much. And it wants to give you that freedom to explore the city and explore, the different relationships you can have, and not like be like, hey, don't forget, if you're not friends with this character, you're not going to unlock this content, or if you don't do this, you won't be able to do that. Like they don't shove that down your throat because they want you to, right? And it says it on every loading screen. They want you to take your time. They want you to just go through the process of like living in the city and exploring it and like figuring out how you want to live, your best student life or whatever, right? And I think so few games do that well.
I think it's a lot more after this first one though, because I kept having to leave Anne and Ryuji on red because every 5 minutes they'd be messaging me saying, "Should we go to the castle? Should we send the letter now?" And I'm like, "No, piss off! I'm going to the airsoft shop today, or I'm gonna go and go like to the batting cages or the bathhouse, or I want to go work because I've had a message from work saying that I can, earn extra money today." Although, by the way, I don't know if any of you found it. You can get so much money just on the base game on this. Just go and click on the boxes in your room.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And you'll get like 100,000 yen
And all the DLC
like a load of
costumes.
shit.
Yeah, the DLC costumes too. Yeah.
Yeah.
If like, I'm sure the viewers, when the footage shows up while they're watching, I didn't play the first palace. Every palace, I'm gonna play in a different outfit. And the first one, I didn't want to play in the Phantom Thieves one. I played in the Persona 5 dancing game one, because each one, if you put it on Joker specifically, the music track will change to a track from that game. So like, if I put on the Persona 4 one, I'm getting the Persona 4 battle theme. If I'm playing the Persona 2 one, like, and stuff like that. So just to add a bit of variety to what you guys are watching at home, and to add a bit of variety for, while I'm playing, to hear different music and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like those are really nice things that'll encourage you to like play around for a second playthrough and things like that,
Oh yeah.
I presume that's only stuff that's in Royal in this re-release. Was it in the original Royal re-release?
This version actually has less DLC than the PS4 version did. There was one outfit removed because the game is in like publishing copyright hell right now. It's called it's like Devil Summoner Rido or something like that. There's just either they're just like they can't do anything with that game anymore, or they just like acknowledge it as a complete failure, which I haven't heard, but I don't know. Yeah, they took it out and it was a huge deal for like 4 minutes on the internet.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But everything else is there. So like If you want to play as the guy from Catherine, I think his name is Vincent. You can play as him.
Sure.
You can have Morgana dress as the sheep.
There's Teddy.
Teddy.
Persona
Oh,
4.
Teddy's so good. You got to play Golden after this. Sierra Teddy's amazing. I love Persona 4 Golden and the theme tune.
Look, I'm
when that
telling
comes
you,
up.
that's
Such
the next
a different vibe.
That could be the next book club. I haven't played
Yeah.
Persona 4. I need an excuse. We'll line it up. We'll lock it in.
You
right
have it. Someone got it for you.
Yeah, you did. I have it on my Steam Deck. Oh, and by the way, that's where I'm playing it. Where are you playing it, Zaid?
I'm playing it on Steam, just
Okay,
on my
yeah.
PC.
Chewy didn't answer either way. You playing, Chewy?
I ended up getting it on Switch.
Nice, okay.
Nice.
I was debating the whole time because I hadn't started. I was like, I'm gonna start this once because I know it's gonna be like a big time commitment to be like, oh, let me change my mind and switch consoles real quick.
Sure.
So I was debating between like Game Pass, just playing on Xbox, and which I had already downloaded it, and I'd like watched the whole intro little trailer movie thing that they have, and then I was like, I also kind of watched a bit of like just I think Nintendo Life had randomly posted like just playing some of the life sim stuff in this game, and I was like, yeah, this is gonna be a lay in bed and play this kind of game. So
Yeah.
after that, I was like, all right, I'll get it on Switch and play there. So I've just been enjoying it wherever.
I've really been enjoying it on Steam Deck. It runs really well. It is able to hit 60 FPS, and like it looks sharper than it did on the PS4, which is insane. And yeah, like I've been using the dock when I want to play it on the TV, but otherwise I've just been rocking it in handheld mode, and that's been fantastic.
Yeah,
So.
I'll say on Switch, it runs great too.
Good.
Like,
I'm glad to hear.
I haven't seen like any problems with it. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Awesome.
Does it run at 60? I heard it ran at 60 on Switch.
I mean, I don't count frames or anything, but
okay.
I haven't seen it like stutter at all.
Yeah,
or
like-
I've honestly like seen no problems with it so far.
Like I noticed right away when I jumped into it on Steam Deck that it was in 60 because I'm just like, oh, this is like so much smoother than like how I remember
Doesn't
it.
feel
you
as
know?
twitchy, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. And like I played a little bit of Persona 5 Strikers, which was the Muso that they did, and that was in 60 FPS in the non-combat sections. And that was I remember having
At
that
least
same
it was
moment.
trying to probably target 60 FPS.
Correct.
in the
That's why I
combat
said in the
section.
non-combat
Yeah.
sections when you're the only thing on the screen, it runs in 60 FPS. But all right, so we've got a lot more Persona 5 to talk about in just a second here. But before we do that, let me remind you that this episode of the FlipScreen Games Game Club, Persona 5 Royal Edition, I didn't think about what the show was called when I got into this.
I was going to call it the FlipScreen Game Club, but that's fine. Or the FlipScreen Games Club. Whatever. It's okay. You
Well,
can
because
call it
we're
what you want.
FlipScreen Games, right? So, like, is it the FlipScreen Game Club or is the FlipScreen Games Club? We'll figure it out for episode 2. Either way,
That's like people that don't know what Game Passing or Games Pass is. Like a lot of people just get it wrong.
Xbox Games
There
Pass.
are multiple games on there. It's not just a single game.
It's the
that I get
Games
access
Pass,
to.
right? Correct. Yeah. See, you got it. You get exactly where my head's at. Either way, whatever we're calling this show, it was brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of November. They are, of course, Christian Oliveria, Christopher Valens, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, aka Sobi, Mary Berry, Wakahula, and some guy named Zaid Ida. Yeah, I don't know. Bet he likes
What
Persona.
a loser.
What
What
a
a
guy.
loser.
No. Of course, not a loser. He's a Patreon
No, I'm just
producer.
kidding. I'm
It's
just
the realest of the real, of course. We greatly appreciate all of your support over on patreon.com/FlipScreenGames. Thank you all for tuning into this week's show. Or this month's show, I should say. If you want to find the rest of our content, if you have only listened to this, you want to go check out one of our weekly shows. We've got a Nintendo podcast called Nintendo Noise. We've got the FlipScreen Games podcast where we talk about kind of just a general gaming topic every week. We got the Steam Deck podcast. We got a lot of good content. I hope you'll go check it out. FlipScreen.games is our website where you can find links to all that good stuff if you like this episode. Which, if you're 24 minutes in, you probably like it, right? Or you just hate listening to this whole thing? People do that. So if you hate listening to it, leave me a comment. Yeah. We've gotten them. We've gotten them, Steve, right? Where people hated our conversation about the DualSense, but they listen to the whole thing. And frankly, that's just as good, right? I'm living rent-free in your brain if you're hate listening.
We get more and more lately. I just think that's...
I was gonna say, you won though. You won.
You're listening to my show, right? Like, hey, who's the real loser? Anyway. let's keep the conversation rolling here. I wanna talk a little bit more about the gameplay. We've talked a little bit around the loop and everything, and kind of the way that the game balances the more traditional JRPG turn-based combat stuff with the life sim. So I'm interested, and let's start with Chuy, because I know that this was the thing that you were most excited about. How are you feeling about it thus far? Because I feel like in this first portion of the game, right, the early hours of the first 12 hours of this video game, they really don't start to let you off the leash until Kamoshida's heart's been changed. That's the first time where they really give you some unstructured time to play with. So how are you getting on with that? Were you frustrated by feeling a little on the rails in the beginning? How have you been spending your free time now that you have it? How are you engaging with that system?
I personally liked it. Because it's such a huge area to explore and learn about, and just like there's a bunch of odd jobs and activities that you can take on. So I appreciated it, kind of just like guiding you through, and I felt like it overall captured what was happening in the story too, where you're this new kid having just been expelled, sent over to this new school that's, allowed you to continue your stuff. And I don't know, to me that captured like, oh, you're kind of lost and you need a little bit of guidance in that as a player. And so I appreciated it. I appreciated getting every step of the way where they're like, oh yeah, you should check this out. Like there's random people talking about some place. And the way it like delivers that, where it's not like some sort of tutorial thing where you just like run into this building and they're like, oh, this is what this is for, It was more like you just kind of hear things around town. And I think that's what works really well with this game in general, where all of the stuff it tells you can do, it does so by just making it part of the world. Like just by walking around, just by going about your day, you're hearing about these things. Like one thing I forgot to go to the whole time, and I think it was because I didn't quite find it while I was exploring around, but there was the bathhouses, for example.
Sure.
And I was like, oh, I never went to that. I guess I'll try them out next time I pick this game up, right? So yeah, just
did you go to like the other places around?
Yeah.
Like the batting cages?
I tried a lot of things. I did the batting cages, and at first I was like, why can't I hit that target? And then after a little while, I was like, oh, okay, there's a little bit more nuance to where I aim my bat and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. Done laundry and things. I got into the movie theater, but
obviously
yeah, just
went
a lot.
To go to see the doctor.
Yeah, gone to the doctors. I bought my pass to the DVD store. And I was like, cool, I'm living it up here, just being a kid or whatever.
You're like, oh boy, physical media, wow.
Right? So yeah, no, I really like how all of that stuff is presented at any given time, just because like it's so, every other game is just like, here's this mechanic, here's how it plays out in just like boring old tutorial speak, but this one's like, oh, you can listen to people whispering and just get little nuggets of information about things here and there.
I like the way that it gradually gives you information too with things like that, because like I had an experience when I was kind of wrapping up and getting into the like, okay, I've changed Kamoshida's heart. I have like 7 days left to kill her or whatever, and I had that experience that you're talking about, where you hear like the two girls or the two guys near the vending machine and they talk about some place you can go to, and then I don't know, a couple days later there was a story beat where I was taken to one of those places, so that it's like, hey, like we dropped this thread for you and you could go find it yourself, but if you don't, like at some point we'll teach you this system, and it does a good job, I think, of mostly explaining how things work. There are a few things that I definitely only learned about because I had other friends that were playing, or, like Zaid heard about something and told me or whatever, right? And it's like, oh, fuck, okay, like, I thought I understood this system.
Initial section?
Sorry?
Is there any examples of that in this initial section?
I don't think so. I think this part of the game, they do a good job of, like Chuy said, kind of gradually letting the blinders off of you and letting you kind of like explore things in a digestible way. But I remember later on in the game, I realized that there's like a spot you unlock later where you can go and play billiards or darts with your buddies, and you can really take advantage of that to raise some different like stats that we won't get into because you won't remember by the time you unlock this area. But and I remember I was using it and I was like, I didn't realize how to maximize the system because like they had explained it to me, but they hadn't explained, but if you use it this way, you'll actually get double the result or whatever, right? And it's like, I guess maybe they were expecting me to do some trial and error, but it was a thing that like, you know, somebody told me and I was like, oh, okay. You know, or like, I think something the game doesn't really tell you is they tell you it's really important to, you know, make connections with people and visit your confidants and deepen those relationships, but they don't warn you that there are 3 specific characters that we'll talk about probably in the next episode that you need to have a relationship with or you won't get the post-game, like, Royal exclusive content. So, like, there's little things like that where the game's like, well, you'll figure it out or you won't, you know? And I think that's part of the fun, but... You know, we'll warn you, listeners, right?
That's part of the fun for this game, but when it's on a Souls game, it's obscure and opaque, and you hate it.
Well, because this game actually has a good story and an interesting a world that feels lived in and you know dynamic and where there's like things worth exploring rather than like, oh cool, I went into another cave and a guy attacked me. And if I watch a YouTube video that's 45 minutes, I'll get to know what his name was and his backstory. That's pretty cool. All right, wow.
Cave guy number 10.
Exactly, right? You get it. Who could forget? Who could forget Cave guy number 10?
There's a lot of story in Elden Ring, but I'm not going to go into the fact.
Don't bait me into talking about this game, Steve.
Welcome to the FlipScreen Games Elden Ring
the book club. Let's do it.
Maybe we should do that. Then Peter will have to play it.
Fucking
True.
Christ.
True.
You know what,
Steve
Steve?
plays
You know what, Steve? Thank you,
When Steve
Zaid.
plays-
Yeah, thank you, Zaid. You know what, Steve? When we do Mass Effect and you play Mass Effect, then I'll play Elden Ring. How about that?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay,
but,
deal.
You picked this one, so the next one is going to be Elden Ring. There you go.
No! What? No! I did this for Zaid. You don't get to just decide that now. Anyway, let's keep talking about gameplay, you son of a bitch. So, Sierra, same question, because I know you said that you got to the change of heart for Kamoshida, and you've kind of got that little bit of 2 or 3, whatever days left before you kind of activate the next chapter. So how have you been getting on with those systems, right? Like how have you been spending your free time? Like, are you feeling like, you know, you're starting to get a little bit more of that control, or are you still feeling like you're kind of on the rails?
I'm still kind of on the rails, but what helped was I went back in to do the final like battle in the palace a little early on in that time frame that were allotted before the change of heart. So like then I had like over a week and change to like do the life sim stuff and have like the time allowance to like really dive into it. So now I'm getting the hang of things. Like I'm understanding like kind of the flow of like what I can do each day and like in a week to increase like knowledge or like guts and what everything does. I don't know what it is. Like I like it's so funny. Like the game does such a good job of explaining everything to you, and like it feels overwhelming and verbose, but like at the same time, I'm like I know I'm like gonna need this. Like so, I try to just like absorb it all, but you know that's I guess what the tutorial section is for, right? You can always go back.
I think that's why it's so long too. Like I think that's why like the opening of the game is like 12 hours because it's like, all right, we're gonna slowly teach you that these are all the things you need to interact with for this game to make sense. You know,
right?
But even in like the battles, right? Like the battles, it wasn't like here's a battle, here's everything you can do, here's the gun straight away, here's all of your persona straight away, here's the conversation with the all-out attack at the end, or you can choose to ask it for money. Or give it you the mask, and you know there's all of those different things that you can do in battle. You don't learn any of it really all in one hit. It's each individual battle, and then Morgana's like, oh, let me show you how this works. Let me show you how to use an item. Let me show you how to use your gun. It's just like, okay, fair enough, but I wish there was like a skip button that's just like, I'm aware of what Persona is. I've played a Persona game before. Let me kind of
This one
go in.
The battle introduction to me, as I was going through it, I was like, oh, this is definitely where Xenoblade Chronicles 3 got more of their tutorial for fighting. I was
Yeah,
like,
it's
oh yeah, it's
similar.
just so broken down into just every little aspect. And that honestly, that was like the most digestible that battle system has been, like the Xenoblades. And I was like, oh man, this is breaking it down better. Because I guess this is where I had my experience with like Persona 5's kind of style of gameplay in terms of battle. Shin Megami Tensei 4 specifically is the one that I played on 3DS. I never got through the whole thing. Very, very difficult, really cool game. But a lot of the systems were recognizable there, but a lot of them were not quite so clearly laid out for me as far as like being the only game I've played in that series. And so this one, I was like, oh, I feel like I understand that game better now. At least like how to play through it and everything. Because I'd get introduced things and I'd mess with them and stuff. I'm like, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing or not. I'm just doing whatever, right? Um, but with this one, specifically what Persona 5 does that I really like is just the way all of that gameplay is weaved in with like the themes and stuff. Obviously, I said the I am thou line coming into this, and I'm like, all of that makes sense. I'm like, oh, okay, we're in these worlds that are like representative of people's inner desires. Like all the palaces are built up of like inner desire and what people are inside or their heart, like what that captures. And like your personas that you in case anybody doesn't know or is just tuning in, personas are basically like these demon type of characters that you can befriend and have fight by your side and that sort of thing. And what I like about that is that like you take on a persona. It's like it's a part of you. It's like you're that character and they are you, right? Like that's the whole theme. And I think that is
Like
really
even prior to that, right? Like every single time you go and attack someone, it's like show me your true form. Like even there,
Mhm.
like what the demon's projecting is a persona in itself. It's like
Right.
this is what I want to be perceived of, and like it's ripping off that mask, and then you get to wear that mask
Mhm.
whenever you want to go into battle.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, Chewy, because that was something I really wanted to explore or discuss was like some of the themes that the game explores, because I think that obviously is kind of the core, and every other major theme is kind of woven through that broader idea of like identity and the masks that we wear, right, ourselves, and the ways in which like you alter your personality to like fit in, right, and blend in society, right, and like all of the main characters are outsiders, right, and all of them have like they've kind of been forced into that role, right, like none of them were really outsiders by choice. They've been ostracized by society for something that was largely out of their control, right, or like was a reaction to like trauma. And I appreciate that like all of those themes kind of feed into each other, right? It's this idea that like because they're outsiders, that's why they're able to use their personas the way that they do, right? And other people, the average people in society, right, that are that don't have that same ability to recognize, I guess like the game, right? That they're a cog in the machine and that they want to step outside of that and assert their personality. Like that's what makes them powerful, is that like because they are all these outsiders, they're able to bond together and find this sense of community and, be true to who they are in a way that they weren't before, right? And that was what was kind of the bedrock of the struggles that they all are going through as individuals, right? And it's like through the Phantom Thieves and through this new identity they have as Persona users, right? Like they're able to kind of like take that outsider status and that thing that had been this kind of like, especially for like Ryuji and Joker, right?
Mhm.
That had been this like red mark on them, right? And this thing that everybody judges them for, and then they're able to take that their greatest weakness and then turn it into their greatest strength, and I think
Yeah.
that's just it's so well done, and I think
And I think they really captured it the best with Ryuji. personally, because it's like you have him experiencing all the same things, Joker has up until that point, but without the persona, right? He's going through these places, whereas like I feel the Joker kind of appearance was like, okay, we've got more of a backstory on like what got you here.
Yeah.
But like Ryuji, I feel like we really got to see that turn of like, oh man, stuff is messed up and I can't just sit around doing nothing about it, you know? So that was really strong. But I also wanted to say like that whole aspect to the gameplay, I think is like, I find it to be stronger than what I experienced with Shin Megami Tensei, just because I think the process of capturing these personas and making them and having them be a part of you is just like, oh man, this is like, I don't know, it hits on a level that I don't think Shin Megami Tensei quite did, where it was like, oh yeah, you're striking deals with demons kind of thing here and working together. But this one is like, oh no, you are just like them. And I think that captures so much of it.
And I think it makes it feel like less like a mechanic in a game and more like that's like part of the theme of the story as well, right? And I think it makes that whole system so much more satisfying.
Yeah.
Why, like, when they like rip off like their awakenings, not to get too far ahead, it's like
No, yeah, do it.
gruesome. It's so gruesome and heavy and so emotional because like the way I like to describe it, especially with Jokers is like one of my all-time favorites, as well as Ryuji's, is they're ripping off the facade of their old self or the people they put themselves up for other people, and showing us their true forms. And like on top of Joker, like you mentioned, Chuy, where he says like, "Show me," or Steve, "Show me your true form," and he might be talking to the other persona, but he's also talking about himself. You know what I mean? He's also like, you know what I mean? Like they're not calling on their personas as just objects to or weapons to destroy the enemy. They're calling them as they're calling an inner version of themselves, the side that they might be too afraid to share sometimes, or that might rub people the wrong way. They call upon that to tackle the adversary in front of them.
And I really like that point, Zaid. And I think one of my favorite reveals, and at least of the ones that we've seen so far, is like On's moment where she unlocks her persona, because it's like it's the same thing, right? It's like she's a character who, like, when you meet her, she's like very defined by how people perceive her, right? And like all of this like projection of like resenting her for being attractive or for being whatever, right? For like having these things that other people want, and then using that to to like use it as a weapon against her, right? And like when she has that awakening, it's about her like realizing that like she's not going to let other people dull her shine, right? And it's like, it's not, it's about me perceiving myself and like being comfortable with myself and my power rather than, letting other people define what that means for me,
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, great. Good. Great point, me. Good job.
Nice job. Yeah, I liked it.
Loved it. So let's backtrack a little bit. We've talked a little bit about some of the combat, right? And there's obviously the system of like interacting with personas and adding them to your mask library and all that good stuff. But I'm interested to hear from Chuy and Sierra, and I want to start with Sierra on this one, because I know both of you are big Pokemon fans, right? And like I imagine that's probably the majority touch point that a lot of people have with like turn-based RPGs in the modern era anyway, right? So how are you feeling about the combat, and how do you think it compares to what you're familiar with from past JRPGs or Pokemon, because there is the whole like type situation with the personas as well?
Right, like you can check type matchups. Some people are irked, like, oh, I hate that like the game Pokemon just tells you, and it's like that's a thing. I don't know why you're reaching like that, but I had a little bit of priming, like working up to playing this game, because I've played Octopath Traveler and I've also played Digimon's Cyber Sleuth, which now looking back at Cyber Sleuth, I'm like, oh, it's kind of got a Persona vibe. But,
Definitely.
yeah, so like trying like obviously with this game, anything beyond Pokemon, there's so much more strategy involved about like the timing of the decisions you make. And And then like how like gun and melee, like you get a little more leeway with using them without impacting your HP and your SP. So I think like the more that I play the game, the more comfortable I get with it. I like the challenge of like, okay, so when you're crawling through a dungeon, you want to use as little SP as possible. But like when you encounter new like enemies and you need to figure out their weaknesses, that's when, you know, like using personas really count to figure out like
Feeling them
what
out, right?
exactly.
I
And
love
then
that risk reward. You know, of
yeah.
like, oh, like I want to keep exploring and getting further. Do I have enough items? Like, or can I figure out these weaknesses right now? Like, I think that really plays into like the dungeoneering part of it. You know,
For sure.
This first dungeon as well is quite tricky in that regard because there is no item you can purchase that will revive your SP. That does become available as you game like you kind of get closer to the doctor and stuff,
I was
right?
about to say, yeah, you can, but it's very out of the way, and you really gotta know.
it's limited too, right? Like you can only get a couple. Like it's you
couple
really
once a week.
Yeah.
Couple a week, and you have to like go across Tokyo to find them. And it's just the vending machines, like
Yeah,
the
I was
vending
gonna say,
machine.
but that'll only do like 5 SP for one.
Yeah, some of them are
person.
terrible.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean,
Rather
for the first palace, when you have like 20 SP, or like Ryuji has 30 SP max, like that 5 is gonna really help you out.
For sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. But yeah, there's no items. Yeah, it's. I remember just piggybacking off of that, like the first palace. I'm playing on hard mode. I'm curious to hear where you guys are. Where
I
your
play
guys
on
are.
Merciless,
Easy.
baby.
I'm on easy too,
Easy.
Sierra.
I want
Mine's
to enjoy the story.
Mine's on normal.
What on easy? I think it's probably an easy thing. You get the auto revive feature. Is that on all of the modes? Because I don't remember that from Persona 5.
I
is it?
forget.
What does it
What does it
do?
I think so.
Yeah.
Run around the palace, you hit X, and it'll heal you after
Oh,
every
that's
battle.
yeah. No,
You
I
can
have
get
that.
100% health.
I
The
have that,
certain
but
items,
it
right.
takes away SP when you do it. It
Yes.
takes the SP from
It
whoever has the
uses-
highest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
whoever has
But
a
I
heal.
don't remember that in Persona 5, but it might have been there.
I don't
yeah,
remember.
yeah. It wasn't royal. I don't know if it was in vanilla, but it definitely wasn't royal on PS4. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's brutal. It's like it's not easy. Like even like with us, we all got the DLC items for just getting the game on the new platforms and stuff. And even then, like I had to use at least a couple of those throughout especially on the harder enemies, because it's no joke. Like the game is very easy in terms of like giving you all this information progressively, but like it's no cakewalk getting through it. It's like, all right, once you have all the information, like you got to go figure it out yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, for me, I definitely died against the boss fight, and then I got real close on some other ones. And I was just like, man, I better figure out something to do different.
I had one moment where I bumped it down for Merciless because I was like in this stretch during Kamoshida's palace and I kept spawning and the first creature I was encountering was attacking Joker and critting him and it happened twice in a row and I'm like, motherfucker, like they keep making you go back to the title screen too on Merciless, like rather than just letting you load your last save. I'm just like, bro, like stop. Like this is like 10 minutes of me going through menus just because I got wocoed by a crit. Like you gotta give me some leeway here.
I think I died once, and it's just because I could not be bothered to leave the palace and come back in, and I was all out of SP, but I really wanted to get that seed, and it was the one down in the basement where there's that guy stood in front of the door before you kind of go get it, and I was like, oh fuck it, I'm just gonna try. Died, and on easy mode it's fine. You just load back to the last save room, which was like 2 seconds ago, and I just left the palace and came back the next day. It was no issue.
I think like the only differences between merciless mode and like hard mode, to my knowledge, is like you get more money but you get less XP, and it's like the differences are so minimal. Like not to say that there's not like a difference in difficulty, but like I don't know how you're doing it, Pete. That sounds like a lot. Because like for me, I'm playing on hard mode and I get to load back into the battle right if I die, because I died once because I just miscalculated with my debuffs and I got one shot. on Joker, and it takes you right back into the fight, and then it starts the yeah.
I imagine I'll bump it back down to hard at some point. We'll see. Because, like, I kept it on Merciless because if there's a point later in the game we'll get to where there's a boss fight that's actually easier on Merciless than it is on hard. And I played the rest of the game on Merciless after doing that fight and was like, oh, this is great. Like, I'm loving this. So, yeah, I thought I would just try playing it that way from the jump, and it's been okay so far.
I'm very glad the difficulty is changeable. Unless you pick story mode, then you're stuck in that. You can't get out of it, like it says at the beginning, because I went through all the modes. But I got stuck on Persona 4 Golden for a good while because you cannot change the difficulty in that game. It's like you pick it, and that's it. So make sure at the beginning you pick which one you wanna go with if you ever play Persona 4 Golden. I recommend easy if you're there for the story and you want to get through it. It's really good.
Yeah. I did the palace like pretty early on. Basically, like the moment it became an option for me to just freely go there and go through the whole thing, I was like, all right, I'm doing this. And so I walked in, I went through as much as I could in the like literally to the point where it was like, all right, you gotta
now leave.
You gotta go leave and send out the calling card, right? So there are points in that where I was just like, I don't know if I was ready for this, but you know what? My characters, still able to heal them somehow. I'll keep going, and I just kept digging and digging.
I'll tell you what, that's the good.
It took 2 days for me. Although I do wish that I'd done it over 3 days because there was some chests I couldn't unlock because I didn't have any lockpicks, and I'd used them all up.
Yeah,
I never went back to get them.
I did the lockpick tutorial, and I had some.
That's something that's important to keep in mind. I think just like that's a good general tip for everybody is like you should try to do palaces in 2 days because like the more time you invest, it's just less time that you can use building your social links or leveling up your character or whatever. Because basically, the first time you go there, you should be ready to find a path to the treasure, right? And then you send the calling card, and then the next time you go, you wrap up. And, like, that's the ideal way to take care of it if you can. So, like, if you find yourself not ready to start a palace, like, take a couple days and, like, get your resources together. Like, make sure you have healing items, make sure you have lockpicks, make sure you have, you know, stuff for raising your SP and all that stuff. Because otherwise, like, you'll find yourself... Oh, I got so far that the first time I played, that's what I was doing, right? And it's like, if you're taking 3-4 days to do it, that's just less time you have to maximize your stats and experience more of the social content. So keep that in mind.
I did Kamoshida's in 1 calendar day in the
Hell
game.
yes. That's what you want.
Never left. I'm like, we're getting this done.
It's like, I'm finding this goddamn treasure. Like, forget about it.
There was only one day you could go in on, and I hope everybody did the same. I went in on 420.
Oh yeah,
and that's when I. I
think I might have too.
That's when I
you
completed
that
the
in the
palace.
calendar, right?
I don't know. I don't know if I can show this to you guys. Okay, yeah. Can you see on my laptop here? I have this is the 420 calendar after school sticker. I have it on my laptop. You know.
My God. I don't remember what day I did it on, but I remember not wanting to go back in for ages. I just wanted to do all the social stuff. So every time they would message me, I was just like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm gonna go and do everything else. I went and did like running with Ryuji a few times. I met him in the arcade a couple of times. I had a good time doing all the social stuff.
Yeah, I usually like to get it out of the way. Because, like, a lot of the characters are, like, they're so, like, oh, are you sure we should be hanging out? Shouldn't we go save ourselves from being expelled? And it's like, all right, let's just get it out of the way.
Yeah, but even after you do it, they're still really annoying. They're like, oh, but he's not changed. Like, and it's just like, yeah, but we've got, like,
Steve's
another 12 days
no
left.
fucking
like, what's the
empathy.
deal?
No empathy. He's like, oh,
I mean,
these
they're
annoying teenagers worried about their futures being destroyed.
I think that did actually bother me a bit, mostly because I think on wasn't quite as like let's hang out as Ryuji was. Like I felt like the only person in the little Phantom Thieves group for me who was like texting me to do something was Ryuji.
Yeah, so that happens
Well,
with
Anne's,
hers.
like busy at the hospital, right?
Right, yeah,
so it does
she's
have,
visiting
like, a
Shiho.
backstory as to why.
Yeah,
she's,
so it-
she's worried about her friend.
They also use that as an opportunity to teach you about a system subtly, where they're like, oh, if you want to like advance to the next level of your
You
confidant,
might need to be level 2 guts or this
kindness.
or that.
Yeah, you need level 2
kindness for
kindness for on. And it's the same thing with the doctor, right? Like to continue the clinical trials, you need to up your guts. And I feel like that's how they teach you, like, you should be using your time to raise your social stats because that's the only way to keep advancing things. And
Did you all do this stuff with Elvis back at the coffee and curry place as well, where he like teaches you and you can then make coffee and
Make
make
coffee.
curry?
did you just
Yeah.
call
Well, that's
Sojiro Elvis?
Yeah, that's what he reminds me of.
Why? He's a Japanese man with a ponytail and he wears like white alligator
I don't know.
shoes. Okay.
They should let us rename the guy. They should let us rename.
I don't. So it's this is a bit of a tangent. This is one of my favorite things about being friends with Steve is just having him give me his impression of things that are American. Like that's what he thinks of when he sees Elvis. Is a
In
svelte,
this case, Japanese.
middle-aged Japanese man.
Yeah. Who now is calling me all the time and texting me, but every single time he mentions how weird it is that he's got a guy's number in his phone, and I'm like, okay.
He's a real player.
Bit
You
weird.
know? He's a real player, Steve.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry. He comes around. He's a good guy.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, but I know there's some even more troublesome content coming up in the next thing with my teacher. So it's like
I don't know if it's in the next section or the section after that. It's one of the next two. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear our new players' reactions to that stuff. So
I mean, the story has been wild. The story has been very wild. So
It's wild.
Did you when Ann was with Kamoshida and she was wearing almost nothing? Did you pick the jealous story option? I felt so gross on that.
Let's just clarify, Steve.
Option?
It's not the actual on. It's the cognitive on.
Yeah. Even still, the fact that was an option for Joker to say.
Oh, yeah,
When it's like, what the fuck?
Steve, what you're doing right now is you're showing your hand, right? Because like me, you are not a weeb, so you don't watch a lot of anime or and it's like, well,
regardless, like she's a high school student wearing almost nothing.
That's correct.
That is so like troublesome to me.
To be fair, though, in a lot of the mainstream stuff, that is a little weird for the stuff that's out there. Like,
Persona goes there.
My favorite show is. Like, it's about high schoolers being superheroes. My Hero Academia. You don't see any of that stuff. They tease it, but you don't see it.
It's not as overt, but it's still pretty horny.
I'm curious. I wanted to ask you guys, especially people who, we've all had different experiences with turn-based games. This is very different. There's a lot more than just you have 4 members and each of them has 1 attack. So just like a little background for newer players. Obviously, the combat system in Persona 5 Royal is called the One More system. If you hit an enemy weakness, you get an extra turn with that character. The twist for Persona 5 was the baton pass. That's what it introduced to differentiate it. And hypothetically, if you baton pass up to 4 times with each character, I've done the math, you can attack up to 16 times without the character doing nothing, without the other character doing anything. It's one of the most satisfying things in video gaming for me.
So good.
And I'm curious to hear your thoughts. What were you expecting going into it and like coming out on the other side? And I know, Steve, you've played the game. Talk to me about the changes that like are different from Royal to 5, because there are a few small changes and how it's picked you back up and grabbed you back into the game.
Because you brought up baton passes. That's not a thing that you just get in base Persona. Like that's a thing you have to unlock.
I definitely remember having it, but I don't know if it was in the beginning or not. But I definitely remember having baton pass at some point. But yeah, that is so satisfying, and to be able to. And there is some skill involved in that as well, right? You have to know, right, okay, I'm going to attack this persona first, or this demon first, then I'm going to baton pass over to Ann, and she's going to do the like electric strike on this one because there's a weakness, and then I'll baton pass over to Ryuji or to Morgana to do like wind, and then they're all on the floor, and then we can do like an all-out attack, or I can have a conversation with them. Like it is a really satisfying mechanic, I think. That plus like the style, the fact that the music
is just incredible.
Everything kind of brings it together in the battle, and you do feel like a hero. like my dad's actually been playing this, and he said he like compared it to playing a comic book. He was like, "Oh, like I'll play like something like Uncharted or a Sony game. That's like playing a movie. This feels like I'm playing in a comic book, and like you definitely get that vibe, like the panels and the cut-ins and all sorts of stuff.
Yo,
it's really cool.
Real
I do
quick,
really like it.
Andy Radford, you gotta write in for next month's episode, okay? I need to hear the takes. All right, I know there's a bunch of people in the community that picked up the game for episode 1. But y'all gotta write in. But specifically, Andy, I need to hear your thoughts. I need to hear how you're getting on, because I'm very interested. I think that also makes grinding so much less annoying, right? Like when you are like,
we haven't even got to the grinding section, right? Mementos isn't open yet.
Yeah.
So that will come, like, because for Chuy and Sierra, there are procedurally generated dungeons as well, not just these like handcrafted dungeons that you can go in at some point.
And those, like, you can. There's like a whole other.
Yeah,
there's like 3 systems that interact with mementos. It's insane.
Yeah, I was gonna say one thing that surprised me was like once you finish the palace, it's like that whole part of the game's kind of gone until we're getting to the next section. I was like, oh, I guess did they just like plan it out so you get the experience you need to beat everything, or is this going to come on later? Yeah, I wasn't sure about that.
Yeah, you do have the ability to kind of like, if you do want to go grind or you want to spend more time doing combat stuff, you kind of have like an option to take that inroad, and it does, you know, influence the story in a couple different interesting ways.
Or if you want to get like more personas, right? Because that's a big thing. Which I know we briefly touched on, but did Chuy and Sierra, like, did you either of you spend a lot of time in the Velvet Room? Did you execute the personas? How did you find that mechanic, or did you like register them?
I didn't want to do it. I want Arsene to always look like Arsene. But like,
it's gruesome.
They straight up force you to kill him too, right? Where it's like, oh, let's get rid of your first persona. It's like, why?
I was messaging my friends who are also playing.
I chose a different one,
unrelated, and I was like, do I have to do this? Do I have to execute Arsene? Like, I don't want it. Like, and I only had one other persona that I got from battle at the time.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
We figured out
I
that
didn't.
I couldn't. You didn't what?
You had to.
I had several at that point, because this was another mechanic where this got me with Shin Megami Tensei, like just doing all of the little wagering, the conversations and stuff, and going back to this, I was like, I was terrible at it in Shin Megami Tensei.
That's because it's nonsense. It's because it makes barely any sense.
But in this game, I was a lot better, and I was like, I don't know if this is just like some years have passed and I've gotten better at like copywriting and just like knowing like, oh, they totally want me to say this. Like I'm like, okay, I feel like I can read these characters so much better.
Oh my god, it gives you hints as well, like, oh, he's really depressed, go
all
easy
over
on
the
him
place
and stuff, and it's like, okay, sure, right.
I got a bunch of them without even realizing Morgana was giving me hints. I was like ignoring Morgana in the corner. I was just like, oh, what is this person's like this? Maybe that's what they want. So I don't know. I managed to get several, and I was like, oh no, I'm not getting rid of Arsene. I'm keeping him.
Yeah, I went and got him out of my book and brought him back, because I had that exact same experience as Sierra both times that I've played, where like it forced me to get rid of him, and I was like, son of a bitch. Like,
yeah.
He's the coolest one.
I think I got rid of him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Though at this point, I'm like, I have so many that are way higher than level 3 in Arsene right now that I'm just like, I guess it's worth doing it. But the whole animation of going through that, I was like, oh, this is gruesome.
It's very
Rated
gruesome.
M for mature. Rated M.
Yeah. I was like, they definitely, and I'm like, what other styles do you have to unlock? Because they've kind of like,
you haven't seen anything. You think covering up the body is fine? Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
I will say though, in
that's the right face, Sierra. That's the right reaction to that.
There's other executions that they do.
Yeah, there's like some line of dialogue that I saw that I was like, oh, there's gonna be other ways to like mix these people up. This is gonna be weird.
They send their bodies down a log flume of blood, and then they like come out the other end and they, like careen into like a bed of nails. Like,
Sarah's cheating, guys. She played ahead. She's cheating. He knows what's coming. I will say though, Chuy, the Shin Megami Tensei is a lot harder core. Like it's like Persona, not to say that it's hands-on, but it's a lot easier for you to understand the systems, whereas Shin Megami Tensei, because like something about the 5th game in the entry that they just figure out, because Shin Megami Tensei 5 is like the first game to kind of do a Persona style where it kind of drip feeds you things as opposed to giving you everything all at once. And like the answers, because that also has demon negotiation and like just speaking, the answers make sense to what you have to say to the other demon to recruit them. And so like it's not like oh, I just couldn't understand it or couldn't get it, which I don't think you were saying. It's more like, yeah, Persona 5 specifically is really good at letting you choose whether or not you want an item or if you want money. Because there are times you're gonna have to like sit there and just keep hitting, I want more money and I want more money and stuff like that. So
that's why I never get a job. Right, like I never had a job the first time I played because I'm like, fuck, I just go to Mementos.
You really don't need a job when you get the 100K at the beginning in this
game. Dude, I
like,
spent that money way too fast though. I hit a point where I'm like, I got all this money, like let me just throw it around, and I'm like, oh shoot, this is the part of the game where they're not gonna let me go. Don't do any battles for a while, and I'm just broke. Like,
I'm always broke as hell in video games. It's like a running joke in my community.
True.
Like Sierra's always broke. Sierra's no fucking money. They just spend it. I'm like healing potion.
I spent a ton, but I think I just spent so much like time collecting all the different personas and battling that I got like all that money back over time. So it's just like,
or even like the treasures, like every single room I would go into, like I would make sure I put like the scents on and smash the vases or found whatever was in that room, go sell the treasure. I made like 50K on the treasure as well. It was like a ridiculous amount of money that I had. So I think I've still got 120K left. It's crazy amount of money.
I'm back up to like 24 or whatever because we sold the metal, so I've got a little bit of change, you know.
I only bought bio nutrients is what I bought.
That's
I went to the flower shop. Yeah, I bought. That's what I'm trying to. I tried self-imposing the challenge of not spending all of it unless absolutely necessary. So like I'd go to Takemi and I'd see all the SP regen items because I got her confidant up to that level.
Oh yeah,
I'm like, looks enticing.
I bought 10 of each of those, and I'm like, that's all my money, but whatever, I'm set.
I play too much Animal Crossing. I have to buy one of everything at least.
That's right.
Every new thing, I'm like, oh, I got 0 of these. 1, let me get it.
Going back to the personas, like I know you have like a thing for like a connection with Arsene. For me, the one I cannot wait to get again is Jack Frost. I always try and get Jack Frost in a Persona game. He's like the
mascot.
Atlas
Yeah,
mascot.
He's the poster boy.
Yeah, so for me, I always gotta have a Jack Frost.
Festive.
He's really great, great.
Yeah, some of the personas you get in the early ones, like they're not great. They're really helpful. Like one thing about the combat system in general, you got to just kind of just get used to at this point are especially as Joker, you're gonna need moves that do debuff and like you just need buffing and debuffing skills because it's like that is like what separates Megami Tensei games from other JRPGs is like they really emphasize like if someone's using charge, you better bring that attack level back down because it's a one-hit kill like almost like 9 out of 10 times.
They don't make it easy to just brute force your way through things after a while.
You gotta think,
like you really do need to have strategy.
Ryuji was my number one. He was my
one thing they only teach you like I think it's in Kamoshida's battle, like because I think he's the first time you see someone that uses charge. Maybe it's the kind of palace guard before
Heavenly Punisher.
Heavenly Punisher.
Yes, I think you might be right. Yeah, because then that's when Morgana's like, you better
block.
You better block.
Yeah.
It's one of the only games I actually use that as an option where I'm like, block.
Ryuji is the only one that like he was my tank pretty much the entire way through the palace, and then he had to be my main buffer. I think it's with Tarukaja to increase attack on Joker and On, because like he was like the only one, like he was one of the only 2 people that had that skill, and I needed to save either him or Joker as the guy hitting Kamoshida. So it's like.
Oh,
and that's
I sent him off. I was like, you can go off and do the like go get the crown off him, and I was like, that was a mistake.
That's the brilliance though. It has this nuance where it's like you have full control of the wheel, but here is the rule set to succeeding, or here's the rule set to playing our game. But it's all up to you to figure out what to do, and like
it's
you're constantly changing. You're constantly changing your builds and stuff like that, and that constantly keeps the game feeling fresh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I messed up on that because I also sent Ryuji off to go get the crown. and then I was just like spamming heal with a little too long, and then it brought him back, and then I sent him off again. Eventually, I just depleted the HP before he actually got to the point to steal the crown.
That's very funny.
Yeah.
It's so funny that you both sent Ryuji, because like I feel like logically he's the one that makes the least sense. I'm like, well, Morgana's tiny and can climb, so I sent Morgana. But it's
I
also
said Morgana too.
right.
I
And
said
it's like, but, like,
Morgana.
if I was gonna pick a second option, I would pick On, because Ryuji has a fucking broken leg. Like he can't. He falls
They're
down
like-
when you're trying to run out. He can't climb.
On
I
was
mean, we
doing
didn't know that
something.
till
She was, I
after.
think she was
True.
like debuffing. I feel like was it diorama or something like that I kept using
That's
with
the
her. Like
heal
maybe
one.
she was. Yeah, I think I was kept using her to heal. So I was like, I'm gonna keep her here because she's gonna keep healing Joker and Morgana. And Morgana's like Garu was doing really well with like the wind damage. So I was like, I'm gonna keep him around as well. And then I sent off Ryuji.
Fair enough.
I was so mad when you knocked the crown off, and then like the last turn, you see how much damage you're actually doing. I was like, oh my god, why couldn't I do this? Like, come on.
You do more damage after the crown comes off?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Oh,
the
well, I
celebratory,
got
like
rid of
all
him
out
without
attack, go and kill him. Yeah.
Yeah, it did
Yeah, and then
take me
the
a
crown
couple tries.
shrinks and you can escape. And you get that really cool anime scene. What did you guys think of the anime scenes?
Love.
Yeah. This is one thing that was like one of my favorite parts of like Tales games too, just like having anime cutscenes in between everything, and I'm just like, put this in all the JRPGs. Give me all the anime cutscenes.
Seriously, I feel spoiled. Oh my god, like it's so good.
Yeah.
I love when games have cinematic sequences. That's just like the cherry on it. And then it's like the style is beautiful. I love it.
I love how like Persona does the thing too of like, okay, like like most games will be like, all right, there's two or three ways maybe that we deliver dialogue, right? Like it's like there's either cutscenes or there's like in-game dialogue, and Persona's like, cool. So it's a game, but it's also a movie, or a TV series, and it's also a book. So take your pick, right?
Yeah, it's really strange how you can go from like fully voice acted sections to then it's just sometimes you just get yeah and then sometimes you get nothing. It's just click click click. I'm like, it is weird.
Dude,
the points at which
there's
they
too
choose.
many. There's too much dialogue, right? Like if they did that for everything, it would just be like, I can't like. I can imagine the main voice cast. That's like, all right, how many times can I like record going? Oh, like
The weirdest
I do
one for
appreciate
me-
that though. Remember when we spoke about Pokemon
Right.
Arceus? That's all I wanted was the yeah.
I think
Like I
the
feel like
weirdest
that
ones
adds
for me.
personality.
sure.
It does, yeah.
A couple times I felt like I heard on, say, a response made perfect sense, and it was just like the pre-recorded response thing, but I read the dialogue box, it was different, but I was like, yeah, she said the same thing, but it was different.
no, it's weird.
But also
Or-
better.
Yeah.
I'm like,
She
you could
say,
have just gone
no
with
way.
that for the
Is that
dialogue.
what she says? He goes,
Yes.
no way.
She does say that a lot.
She does say
Yeah.
that. But yeah, every once in a while, there's just like one where I'm like, oh, that's weird that that's not just what the text is in the dialogue.
Yeah.
It would have made sense.
Oh, what's the one that Ryuji always says, Zaid?
For real?
Yeah, for real.
For everything.
Yes.
Morgana will be like, so we need to go into the palace and steal the treasure. Ryuji, for real?
For real, we do. It's like, all right, cool.
All I've got in my head now is Pokemon's Scarlet and Violet have these like this reaction that's like the character just putting their
Or the office workers that are just like
They're
deadpan
creepy.
eyes but wide open mouth.
Wide open mouth. It's weird.
Yeah. Oh my god. So wait, all of you are playing with the audio in English?
Yes.
I am. Yeah.
I am.
You playing in Japanese?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Yo,
Also-
that's some real weeb
Also an
hours. I
incredible-
respect it. I
Also
respect
an incredible cast. Also, I've watched the anime in Japanese because that's the only form it existed for a long time. And that show is not that great, but that cast is very, very good. Especially the guy for Joker. When you actually get to hear him talk, he's really good. But this voice cast
I
is
don't
like
know if I want to
amongst...
hear Joker talk because like Joker's the silent protagonist. That's like it's me.
It's through the roof ridiculous that he has a voice though. Like he has a voice, but they make him never talk. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard it a couple times.
Well, because whenever you
Like, it
save,
comes out a couple times, yeah.
he's like, "Oh, well, let's write something down," or whatever.
I'll
and
just
it's
add
like,
this.
I'll just add this.
And he'll be like, when you're like, show me your true form, or he'll say the name of the persona, or
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Persona.
in the 2D, in the actual animated cutscenes that you would see in in the show or something like that, he talks in those and a lot of those throughout the game. So, and like, have you ever heard someone grunt so well? Everyone's like, go,
I can't.
all right, so well.
I love how he always has his hand in his pocket. Whenever he wants to like express himself, he just does it with his hand. He's just like that. I don't know. What do you think?
So there was a show. Oh my god.
Oh, yeah.
Where is
Yeah.
it streaming?
Yeah.
Hulu, I
It's
think,
on
has it.
Crunchyroll.
Oh, okay. Don't watch it
Don't
though,
watch it until you
It's-
finish the game.
because it's
Do not
just the
watch it.
plot of the game.
Okay.
So save it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's only 26 episodes. I assume maybe they like only got to a certain point, but that's like most of the
No.
game.
It's the whole thing. They just cut
Yeah,
out
it's the whole
all
thing.
of like the social link confidant stuff is all like you'll see those characters, but they don't spend as much time with them as you will in the
Right.
game.
And it's by Cloverworks. Ah.
Yeah.
Alright,
It
I
looks
will
really,
watch
really
it
nice.
in the future.
So what I'm hearing is after this game club, we need
We're
to
watching
we'll
it.
do the anime. We'll do a companion. We'll
Oh
all
my
watch
God.
the anime and then we'll review that.
What
Yeah.
about the manga? Are we gonna read that too?
I mean,
I have
Like
it.
that.
I have it. It's
Fair
down
enough.
there. You can probably see it in the shot. It's like right somewhere right there. Right there.
I wouldn't say no.
I have the Persona 4 manga. I don't have the Persona 5 manga.
Persona 5 one's not done yet. It's still coming.
I
out.
liked Persona 4's. It was pretty good.
I mean, Persona 4, the way I got into it was by watching the anime first and then playing the game. Because I was just
Oh,
like, I just finished
interesting.
Persona 5. I don't got 200 hours in me. But
I'll tell you what.
Yeah, that one's not as long, thankfully.
That's
Yeah.
that's something Japanese media does better than anybody. Of like, okay, we got one story. We're gonna adapt it to 4 different mediums. It's like, all right, fuck yeah.
a lot of
Yeah,
people
and
don't like
Here's a
Persona.
rhythm game too.
Dancing
lot of
all
people-
night. Let's go.
A lot of people don't like Persona 5 because it's just like all we've gotten for like the last 5 years. And I'm just like, give me more. I want more of this. I want more
Yeah.
of Ryuji. I want his shirt. I got my Morgana shirt on.
Oh please,
Ah.
I'm recording this episode at my mother-in-law's house, so I don't have my mask. But from
Yeah.
next week or
No,
next
no,
month,
no.
I'm coming with my Ryuji mask. You better believe it.
Love it.
All right, so we're getting near the end here. I did want to talk a little bit about the characters, like the cast. I think we can just, we can table that broader discussion, I think, for next time. But I would love to hear, especially from the new folks, who is your favorite member of the main cast so far?
On so far.
Hell yeah.
I like Ryuji a lot
Hell yeah.
thus far.
That's the right answer.
They're
I
my
like
they're my
Ryuji
two
too, and
favorites. Like even like
Yeah.
I like the rest of the cast a lot, but I always like the kind of like them as
The
a
first
trio. I like a lot.
There's a couple of others I really like. That come. There's some I really hate as well, and just find snooty and annoying. But there are some that I really like.
I like every one of the main cast. They're all precious little cinnamon rolls. Okay.
Yeah. I was still very sad that I can't romance Ryuji in this game.
I
wish
will
could.
say,
You can in spirit. You
I
can in
really-
spirit.
Yeah.
I really like how much mystery there is around a lot of the characters so far, especially like Morgana and things. Just
Yeah.
the story of line of like, are you a cat? Are you not a cat? Are you?
Yeah.
There's a lot of cute little moments with that. And then like even what's his face at the cafe that
Sojiro?
you're staying with. Yeah, like
Elvis.
it's starting to dig into his stuff a little bit. Where Elvis, yeah, Elvis. But yeah, it's digging into like, oh yeah, well, why even is this guy taking you in? First off, like what
Money.
in most likely, but what is his past? Who is this other mysterious person that he seems to have been obsessed with, or had some relationship with?
Well,
right?
and also like
Yeah.
Say, right? Like, who is she? We see her come into the cafe for a little bit, and she sits down, and then she recognizes us later on when she's doing the interview, and she's like, "Wait, it's you!" And like she's trying to figure out all the pieces, and like you're seeing this whole story unfold
Yeah.
through flashbacks. Like the game starts
Mhm.
at the end of it, you're in the casino and you're like kind of escaping, and then you get caught, and you're telling the whole story to her. And she's just like, I don't believe it, and it's
Yeah.
just like, well, every single character gets introduced through her. She's like, well, you must have had someone who was introducing you to medicine,
Right.
and that's how you find the doctor.
So for the new players, how do you guys feel about that framing device? Like, do you like that? Do you like that you kind of like have this point in the future that you're working towards? Chewy, go first. Oh no, go ahead, Sarah. I thought I was gonna give you an out because you were drinking water.
All right, no, Chewy, go ahead. I need a moment.
Oh yeah, no, I really like that aspect to it. I think it's a fun way to tell a story for sure, where everything's kind of meeting at a middle point before you go forward. But I think that also like builds up all of this anticipation for me, where I'm like, oh, I heard a bunch of different characters that I haven't really been introduced to yet in this whole opening sequence, right? And I'm like, there's going to be a lot more to dig into. And I really do like how they introduce everybody, where they're like, oh yeah, you definitely had access to this. Who is giving you that? And it just gives you slowly revealing everybody and getting you to that point where you're like more aware of who everybody is and what was going on at the end. Because right now I'm just like, I don't know what we were doing there. I mean, I have an idea, some sort of palace stuff, right?
Sure, right. But there's so many mysteries.
Take down the evil adults, right? But yeah, no, overall, I'm just like, there's a lot to kind of string you along and be like, oh, but I just want to find this out. I want to get to this next point. And yeah, I don't think I'm going to run into any moment in this game thus far where I'm like, I'm not really interested in following the story beat, just because like the main thing we're getting into, I'm like, more and more, I'm just like, yeah, what's going on? Who is this lady? Just tell me.
Yeah,
like,
right.
I wanna know.
There's her. There's like who's that guy as well? Like from the beginning, who seems to be kind of involved with her, who was the one that was assaulting that person at the car that the Joker got in trouble for, and you kind of see him again when they're at the buffet place, and he's still his rude, arrogant self.
And I love that. Like, I love the way that the game, I think it does a good job of like balancing, hey, like here's a compelling overall narrative that's the framing device, but then there's a lot of smaller stories, right? Like it's like you learn about like Ryuji's history with the track team, and you learn about Anne's backstory, and you learn about Morgana's eventually, and there's all these other characters that you're going to meet, and let alone all the optional confidants that you can come in contact with, and they all have their own little story, and you can kind of help them through whatever they're dealing with, and there's just so much intrigue baked into the way that it tells a story, because like rather than being like, okay, here's the main story and then here's some side stuff you can do, it just feels like it's like, okay, like you live in this city, like how are you going to spend your time? Like what things are you going to discover? What parts of the town are you going to go to? And then you go here and you meet this person and that triggers this other thing. And it just feels like such a alive, lived in place rather than just kind of like the binary choice of like, all right, am I pursuing the main story or am I going to go off the beaten path and do this other thing for now?
Yeah, and I think that goes back to kind of like what I said in the beginning, where I really like how all of this stuff is introduced, where it captures that you are, you're new to this place. You're a new character to all of these people, and you're just as mysterious to them as they are to you, because there's obviously like, your character is experiencing like all these rumors about like why you were expelled.
I love the ambient dialogue about Joker. Like, I love just when they're like, oh boy, like if you look him in the eyes, he's going to kill you. Whoa, he can study. Like, people are just constantly talking about you.
Oh, he got that right? Maybe he's not so bad after all.
Yeah, it's like all these things change. You're working on changing that perception of yourself, right? But
what'd you say, Sierra? It reminds you of what?
How much I hate teenagers. They're mean.
They're little punks, Yeah,
they
it's
are.
true.
Well, cretins.
Well, cretins.
Awesome. All right, so like I said, we will have a lot more to talk about the game's cast and story and themes and all that good stuff when we reconvene for episode 2 at the end of next month. So if you want to follow along and keep up with our progress for episode 2, we are going to be playing up until 6/5 in game, which is the day where our next target, Madarame, will have his change of heart. So everybody, make sure you go get cracking on your Phantom Thieves. Make sure you live an honest student life, and make sure.
How many hours is this one, Pete?
What's that?
How many hours is
About
this one? How much are
two
we
or three
going
more
for?
hours, and you'll be right caught up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say 12 because I'm sure that's not right. But then, hey, if it takes you less time, you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
So
think it'll be more. I think it'll be like 15.
damn it.
That's what I'm thinking. I could be wrong. Who knows?
20 hours. Okay, I don't know.
That's the max. Though. That's the max. Though.
That's it.
Is this the art dude? Is that the second one?
Yes, Madarame.
Yep.
So before we call it here, we have one last question I want to pose for the group. This is one that Zaid wanted to ask. Going into the next month with the game, what are you looking forward to most when you get back to Persona 5 Royal? Chuy, let's start with you. I know you said you were itching to get back to it.
I think I'm looking forward to meeting more characters. I really like this first cast, but I'm also like, yeah, I want to meet more characters and have more of the where they text me and want to hang out. I think that was a really fun, cute thing that I felt was limited to Yuji in this first section.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I wanna hang out with On more. I wanna see who else we run into. But
On is my favorite character to spend time with, actually. There's
Cool.
they have like a really cool little like ritual thing that like she and Joker do that I always think is really cute.
that's fun.
Yeah. So yeah,
Don't
you'll
worry,
get a
your
lot more of
phone's
that.
Your phone's about to start blowing up. Don't worry.
Yeah, yeah. How about
That's
you,
good.
Sierra?
More story development. Why are people having these psychotic episodes? I'm very interested in that. Because the thing with Kamoshida, like, didn't really give any insight into that, and the psychotic episode thing seems to be established as a greater overarching theme
Yes.
for the
Mhm.
entire story. So I'm anxious to see if hopefully, like, the next palace, like that storyline, will have anything to do with it, but maybe it won't.
It is funny how much like they really push that in the beginning, and then they're like, "All right, now here's the palace thing. Like, let's put a pin in.
Yeah,
We're gonna put a pin in that."
exactly.
Yeah.
There's like a cutscene near the end of this first chapter where like there's like the two of the random students that like keep showing up, the two girls, and they're like, "Yeah, like nobody's figured out what's going on with those mental shutdown things either. Like shit's going crazy," and they're just like, "Don't forget, this is a thing that's happening in the background."
Mhm.
Right. Well, whatever. Like I hope to get less scared about like creeping around powerful shadows. And just like hoping to get better at the battle.
You'll be
system.
a
I
bad
don't know,
motherfucker
very
sooner
soon.
than later.
There's a lot of stuff that kind of ties in that you don't realize at the beginning, but they definitely introduce like the guy that's shouting about the politics outside the train station and what impacts all that going to have on things. Like how does it fit in with the diet and this, that, and the other. There's a lot of stuff that kind of gets introduced that's interesting. I really want to spend time, get my guts and stuff up. I spent a lot of time working on my charm and my knowledge. I really want to get my guts up so I can go to the doctors and do more of the clinical trials, and also call someone to come over to my place.
Wow.
That'll be happening sooner than later. Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Zaid? What are you most excited about?
Everything. Is that an okay answer?
Yeah, buddy. Honestly, because that's where I'm at. Like, I'm just happy to be back in this game. Like,
we've done the part where we can explain specifics. You know, we've had the first playthrough.
Yeah.
For us, it's just like, for me, it's just like the vibe. Like for me, like I've said, it's comfort food. Like it's
Yes.
the game like I turn to when I just need to relax or something like that. It's the game that like has inspired me to become a content creator. It's like it holds so much and means so much to me that like for me, it's just like when I pick it up again, it's just like. It's like as if I never put the game down. So for me, it's just like I love going back because it's just the culmination of everything that I'm sure we'll get into over the next 6 months to a year that comes together. That like comes together to me makes my favorite game of all time.
Yeah, it's just got the sauce, man. Like it's a truly special game, and it's a game that like I think I played at a really important time in my life, like playing it in 2020, like amid lockdown when like I couldn't go out and socialize with friends. Like it was a really important tool, I think, for me to have like feeling like I had some sense of normalcy, right? And yeah, like it definitely holds a special place for me for that reason. But going back to it, I was a little nervous. Because, like, not that I thought I wouldn't like it, but more that, like, you can never experience something for the first time again, right? So it's like you need to have enough space between when you experienced it and when you go back to it, I think, for you to have that sense of, like, novelty and discovery again. And, you know, I remember enough about the major beats and the vibes and how it made me feel and all those kinds of things. But like some of the minutia, some of the minute to minute stuff, I'm having that moment of like, oh yeah, I remember this. This is a great beat. Or, oh, this is a really fun moment, you know, things like that. And it just feels good to be back, you know, and I had the same problem that Chuy expressed where I played a shitload of it like right when we agreed to do it and was like, all right, great, I'm almost done, and then sat and didn't touch it for a couple of weeks. So I'm just excited to be able to pick it up again and not feel like I'm getting too far ahead of the exercise, you know, because I really do want to take it month to month and, you know, make sure that I'm only playing the section that we're all trying to get to, you know. So
Yeah.
I feel like it works out with this game where it's like I feel like we're playing through a month in game.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a natural progression of time, you know, so like it just works for that, you know. So yeah, I'm really just excited to get back into it. I'm excited to meet up with y'all again in a month and chat some more. I'm very, very pleased that everybody's getting on with it well and having fun, because I figured y'all would, but you never know, right? It's a vulnerable thing to be like, here, play one of my favorite games of all time. I hope it means something to you. So I'm glad that we're all having a good time with it.
And I will say, I wanted to ask you guys, just to close off, I don't know if Sierra got there, but to the rest of us, this isn't really a spoiler, Sierra. It's just that obviously the game needs to continue going. So An, Ryuji, Joker, and Morgana come together, celebrating their victory over Kamoshida after changing his heart. And they decide, we're going to keep doing this because no one's going to speak up for people like us. That speaks to one of the themes of the game. And you get a chance where you get to name the team. Now, in the game, they are going to refer to them as the Phantom Thieves of Hearts. So that's probably what you're going to hear. You're not going to hear what you type in, but I'm curious to hear, if you had gotten the chance to name your team, what you decided to name your team.
Dude, I was so lazy about it because the first time I did it, I did give them a name, but then they barely ever say it. So I was like, fuck it. So when they're like, oh, we're just the Phantoms, I was like, sure, whatever. That's fine.
Same.
We're the Phantom Thieves of Hearts. That's what we're actually called. Like, no one's ever going to say this name.
As well as that, like, because I also want to know before Chuy and Sarah answer, do you name your characters or do you just go with your actual name?
I just give him my actual name, yeah. Which I think is hilarious, because then when they
I gave Joker my name.
so then they'll
I
be
think
like,
I'm Rose Coon.
yeah, oh, Rose Coon.
I have like a. Oh, go ahead, Chewy.
Oh, I was gonna say this like connects with like what I named my team in the end, but not in the way. Okay, let me explain. I went with Chewy Plays for my character's name.
Okay.
And they're always like, Plays Coon. And I'm just like, okay, this is hilarious and just weird. And every time I see it, I feel like it doesn't fit. And so when it came down to naming the team, no, I'm just going to leave it the Phantoms because I already have this wacky thing that they call me. I'm not going to make the other thing wacky too. But it's funny that they don't even use it that much. And just call you.
It's funny.
I
'Cause
don't-
instead of saying your name, they say him. He's like, oh, you're him, huh?
Or they say you, right? Like, oh, what are you doing? You know, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
it's
every
you,
time it
yeah.
pops up, I'm just like, this is weird.
Oh, and you're getting to the now that like after you have the moment where you name your team and everything, sometimes people will call you our leader, which is a really extremely weird way to refer to your friend in a group of
Yeah.
friends. Like imagine if every time rather than saying my name, you're like, oh, our host, you know, our host. You know?
Yeah.
If that's the case, I should have named him Regina George because that would have just been way more fun.
George Coon, yes. Our leader, George Coon.
I have a character name, ties in with my channel name. I'm a huge My Hero Academia fan. My favorite character in anime is Katsuki Bakugo. My nickname in college was Snacks. I melded the two, and I came up with Katsuki Snackugo. And my team name, to my real Persona heads out there, this is a throwback, is the Specialized Extracurricular Execution Squad, better known as C's, from the Persona 3 Fest. That's the team from over there.
Look at
Arguably
this
has
guy
the
with these deep cuts.
arguably the best battle music in Persona. Persona 3 might have the best Persona song ever. And in the next
know
section
about
for the
that.
gameplay
Persona
you'll
5
be
is great.
seeing, I will be wearing the Persona 3 outfit. So
There you go.
Nice.
catch you next time. Yeah.
Excellent.
All right, so we're going to wrap it up there for today. Guys, if you want to keep up with us, if you want to find our content, remember, FlipScreen.games is the website. You can come watch this on YouTube. If you want the audio version, it's a Patreon-only thing for right now. But if you really want it for free, we'll set up an RSS, so just let us know. We'll figure it out. But you can find us. We're all over the web, FlipScreen.games, wherever you get your content, where they're making some stuff for you. And I hope you'll come and be a part of what we're doing. Come join the community. Again, keep the chat rolling for between the next episode. Send in your questions, comments, all that good stuff for episode 2. I really want to hear from some of you that are playing along with us for the next one. And, tell us about your favorite characters, ask about ours, whatever you want to do, right? But I want to hear from you. Write in questions at flipscreen.games, excuse me. That's the email address. Or just come join the Discord and come chat with us over there. It's a safe, fun, inclusive place for you to come chat games, specifically Persona 5 Royal right now. So, next month, don't forget, 6/5. That's the date. We're playing until the end of Madarame's Change of Heart. So make sure you get to that point. Live your best student life in the meantime. And we'll catch you next month for another edition of the FlipScreen Games Game Club.
It'll be a birthday edition.
The birthday edition,
It'll be out on the 28th of December, so you can celebrate mine and P's birthdays.
Celebrate our birthdays by subscribing to the channel and listening to this podcast, please. That's what I would like for my birthday, please. All right, so for the crew, wait, hold on. I got to look at the preview because we're all in a different order. Okay, for the crew, I've been Pete. He's been Chuy. She's been Sierra. All the way over there has been Steve. All the way down there has been Zaid. We'll see you next time.